Let me see my brother, this man cries. His aunt says she hasn't told his mother her other son is dead. Investigators are crawling over the site of the Air India Flight 171 crash and the medical college dorm the crashing plane hit.
It started as a normal flight, Air India Flight 171, a magnificent Boeing 787 Dreamliner, carrying 230 passengers and 12 crew members from Ahmedabad to London Gatwick. On board, families with children, students, and business travelers all cozying up for the long journey ahead. But just seconds after takeoff, everything went wrong. At exactly 1:38 p.m., the plane lifted off from runway 23 in what appeared to be a standard takeoff, but barely 30 seconds later, disaster struck in the most horrendous way possible. The aircraft stopped climbing.
And that the plane seemed to come to a standstill in midair before crashing.
And it appeared as if the engines weren't delivering the power they needed. Over the radio, the co-pilot was panicking, yelling "Mayday" several times before everything just went quiet. What followed was pure horror, something you'd never want to see, hear, or read about. The plane went straight into the BJ Medical College hostel in Megani Nagar. A massive fireball lit up the sky as everyone on board perished, along with at least 38 people on the ground, including students and staff. And from the looks of it, it should have been total devastation. But somehow, one man miraculously survived. Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, seated in the infamous 11A, walked out of the wreckage. Yep, you heard that right. He actually came out of that apocalyptic crash alive. But here's the crazy part. Just moments before the impact, he claims to have gotten this strange feeling, almost as if time had frozen. And while his survival is nothing short of a miracle, why did the Dreamliner go down? Was it just bad luck, a bad inspection, or was there something else going on behind the scenes? And what if I told you the crash has already been solved? Strap in, folks.
Really, it is heartbreaking. You can see that there. You can see the timer counting down. And in 32 seconds, it's literally all over.
Because one of India's darkest aviation nightmares has suddenly found its answers. Quick disclaimer though, the truth will shock you. But before I reveal the shocking truth, let's revisit some key details. What was supposed to be a normal sunny day ended up being one of the darkest days in India's history. June 12, 2025, a couple of hours into the afternoon, and the entire world was watching Ahmedabad in horror. Air India Flight 171, a Boeing 787 Dreamliner, lifted off from Ahmedabad at exactly 1:38 p.m. It was headed for London Gatwick, with a total of 242 people on board. And like I said earlier, there were families heading for vacations, students returning to schools, and professionals out on business trips. Out of the 242 people, 169 of them were Indians, 53 Brits, 7 Portuguese, and 1 Canadian. But just 30 seconds after liftoff, something went terribly wrong. Despite the pilot's countless attempts, the aircraft just wouldn't gain altitude, and with the Mayday call coming in through the radios, everyone knew what was about to happen next. It was almost like the end of the world as the aircraft tore through the BJ Medical College hostel in the Megani Nagar neighborhood. It consumed pretty much everything in its path, going straight through dormitories, student housing, and classrooms, exploding into a massive fireball. At least 38 people on the ground lost their lives, with most of them being students and medical staff who had no warning or chance to escape. And being on the plane is one thing, but just imagine being in your room and not knowing what's about to hit you. For those who came out of it alive, the injuries were brutal. Many of the bodies were burned so badly that DNA testing was the only way to identify them.
Fingerprint. Second is dental characteristics, because teeth can withstand the heat. And third is the DNA.
And yet from this horrible tragedy, one person walked out alive. His name, Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, a 40-year-old British national seated in 11A near the emergency exit. How in the world did he walk out of the crash alive? I mean, his hand was burned, clothes torn, face injured, but still, he was alive. And what's interesting is how he described a strange moment before the crash, almost as if the aircraft had frozen mid-air before everything just went up in flames.
The sole survivor from the plane says he only realized he was still alive after he opened his eyes.
The last thing he remembered was escaping through a broken door after the plane had gone down. Believe it or not, aviation experts still think Vishwas shouldn't have survived the crash, but at the same time, with more than 200 people gone, Indians and aviation stakeholders from all over the world wanted answers. Within just hours of the crash, India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau launched a full-scale investigation. They were joined by experts from all over the world, including the US National Transportation Board, mainly because the Boeing 787 is an American-made aircraft. Along with them, Boeing engineers, GE aerospace technicians, and aviation experts from all over the world flew in to uncover what happened to Flight 171. Also, when you think about it, this wasn't just Air India, it was about Boeing. And let me tell you, the stakes are incredibly high. We're talking about the 787, one of the most advanced aircraft on Earth. How did it go down just like that? Anyway, back to the story. Both black boxes were recovered surprisingly fast. The flight data recorder was found on a rooftop in the ruins of the BJ Medical College. The cockpit voice recorder was also recovered shortly after. Together, these two devices held the last few moments of Flight 171. Every critical detail, from engine performance, crew reactions, and cockpit warnings, everything was present on these boxes. But as the data started coming in, things went from 0 to 100 in no time. Was this a dual-engine failure? Did both GE GEnx engines lose power just seconds after liftoff? I mean, let's not forget, eyewitnesses claim the plane never really climbed. It was almost as if it was drifting through the air, like something was dragging it down. And that's when experts got their hands on video YouTube that showed something extremely chilling: the deployment of the RAM air turbine. Let me make this simple for you. The RAT is a device that only appears when everything fails. And that begs the question, what could have caused two brand new engines to fail simultaneously? Or worse, was it a human error? Because some aviation experts are pointing to a potential flap misconfiguration as well. And let's not forget, the landing gear stayed extended as well, creating enormous drag. Did the pilots rush through standard procedures? Did someone retract the flaps too soon? And I know what you're thinking right now. Do these questions even matter? The damage has already been done. Well, the answer is yes. Because at the end of the day, it all boils down to one simple thing. Could this crash have been avoided? And then came another theory, one that scared everyone. Was it an electrical failure? The Boeing 787 relies on a more electric system, replacing traditional hydraulics with advanced electrical controls. If the system failed mid-takeoff, could it have triggered failures? What if it cut power to the engine or system? Was this a design flaw? Is Boeing to be blamed? Also, why was this plane even allowed to take off in the first place if any of these systems were acting strangely beforehand? As the world waits for the black box data to be decoded, one thing is super clear. This wasn't a simple accident. No, sir. Something major and possibly preventable went wrong. So, after a few days of intense investigations, the answer is finally out. And trust me, it's left everyone shocked. And for those conspiracy theorists who think it was some sort of bomb, sabotage, or engine failure, That isn't the case. What's the real reason Air India Flight 171 fell from the sky? Are you ready for this? Human error. It's true. The crash could have been avoided. It was a simple, devastating oversight in flight configuration that caused the crash. According to AAIB and their international partners, including both the NTSB and Boeing, the aircraft's landing gear was never retracted after takeoff. And want to hear something even worse? The flaps were mistakenly retracted too early. Mistakenly? To put that into perspective, flaps are essential for generating lift at slow speeds. The pilots basically created an aerodynamic death trap by doing the two most unimaginable things together. I mean, just imagine trying to sprint while dragging bricks behind you. And that's not all. Mid-sprint, someone would come remove your shoes. How hard would that be? That's exactly what happened to Flight 171. The flight data recorder confirmed the sequence with the utmost clarity. After the 787's smooth brake release and acceleration down the runway, the aircraft lifted off exactly as expected, and everything, including the thrust and engines, were normal. But once airborne, the drag from the extended landing gear slowed the climb, and then someone made the fatal mistake of retracting the flaps too early. 30 seconds. That's all it took for the plane to stall mid-air and take more than 200 lives. Want to hear something even more chilling? The cockpit voice recorder captured all the alarms. The plane was telling them exactly what was wrong, but the flight crew just couldn't understand. Now, experts who reviewed the data claim the pilots recognized the issue, but with so little attitude and time, it was already too late. So the plane didn't actually fall because of a mechanical or electrical failure. It fell because it literally couldn't fly anymore. This is a $200 million aircraft we're talking about. It's one of the most advanced passenger jets in history, and just like that, it was brought down by one simple but deadly error. Aviation experts from around the world are still weighing in, with former pilots describing the flap retraction with gear still extended as a critical mismatch. I think what they mean to say is that it's one of the dumbest mistakes a pilot could ever make. But how could something like this even happen? How could trained pilots on a routine international flight make such a basic mistake? The AAIB's preliminary report pointed to deeper problems, like how protocols weren't followed, checklists weren't completed, and warnings were missed or potentially ignored. And now, for the haunting truth, it was all preventable. 241 people didn't have to lose their lives. Had the pilots delayed retracting the flaps until after the landing gear was up, the plane probably would have climbed normally, even if everything else had stayed the same. And you know what makes it all so much more devastating? Not just the loss of life, not even the horror of the crash site. It's the knowledge that all this didn't have to happen. It wasn't even a failure of tech or systems. It was a failure of human factors. Now, the final AAIB report is due soon, and when it arrives, it will likely confirm what's already clear. This wasn't just a crash. This was an incident that points out a grave and growing problem in the aviation industry and how pilots and people in charge still cut corners despite being responsible for hundreds of lives. So, yeah, the crash of Air India Flight 171 sent shockwaves far beyond Indian borders. And like I just said, it's not what happened, it's about how it happened that's left the world shocked. This was a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, a technological beast, a jet design with cutting-edge safety systems and sophisticated monitoring, not a worn-out relic or some regional plane. And yet, it still fell from the sky due to one of the oldest mistakes in aviation history: fatal mismanagement of flaps and landing gear. Aviation professionals are still struggling to believe how something so basic could bring down such an advanced aircraft. And this might not be the right time to say this, but someone has to. Gear retracted before flaps down. It's Flight School 101. Was it pressure, fatigue, a communication breakdown? No one can answer with certainty yet, but the realization that the most advanced jets in the world can be defeated by human hands is alarming for the entire industry. And it's been a tough couple of days for Boeing and GE Aerospace, as well as their shares dropped sharply. While neither company was directly at fault, the psychological hit to their reputation has been unavoidable. On the other hand, Indian regulators ordered fleet-wide inspections of all 787 Dreamliners with GEnx engines, somehow eager to get the tag of human error off this crash. Air India, owned by the Tata Group and in the middle of a massive rebranding campaign, has now found itself facing an absolute storm. The public, both in India and around the world, is demanding to know how a routine takeoff could spiral into a catastrophe in just 30 seconds. But aviation experts are sticking to their verdict. This isn't about hardware, Boeing, or GE Aerospace. This is about humans. And here's another uncomfortable truth. No amount of modern engineering can fully eliminate human error. Either way, the human aftermath of Flight 171 was raw, brutal, and unbearable. Entire families wiped out, newlyweds, students, and grandparents gone. Among the dead were young medical students from Gujarat, future doctors who never got a chance to save another life. Some were professionals bound for new jobs in the UK. Whoever they were, they all left behind an incomplete story. First responders had it tough, as well as identifying the bodies was agonizing. Many passengers were burned beyond recognition. And then there's Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, the lone survivor, the miracle. He came out burned, bruised, and broken. And check this out. How could he or his family be happy? He survived, but his brother, sitting right beside him, couldn't make it. Air India has set up a grief counseling center, compensation funds, and family support hotlines. But we all know no amount of money can make sense of the senseless. And grieving families don't exactly want money or sympathy. They want answers. They want to know why the checklists failed. Why weren't the alarms enough? And why, in 2025, human errors are still crashing airplanes. For them, the story of Flight 171 will never be over. Anyway, that's it from my side, folks. So, what do you think? Was this tragedy purely a human error or a deeper system failure? Is aviation really as safe as we're told? And could better cockpit technology have played a role in saving more lives? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more shocking videos in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.